Welcome to the Deep Dive. We sift through the sources so you get the core knowledge without the legwork.
We save you time, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And today, we're going really local. We've got this stack of municipal documents, agendas, staff reports, commission notes, all from Gilroy, California, mostly centered around their city council meeting agenda for October 6th, 2025.
Yeah, it's a fascinating snapshot. You see everything from huge multi-million-dollar infrastructure contracts down to specific debates about park amenities. Really shows the range of what a city council juggles.
And our mission today is to pull out the main issues. The financial tug-of-wars, what the community's pushing for, and how the city tries to balance it all: recreation, history, massive projects, and just being open about what they're doing. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, the documents immediately show some real pressure points, especially where what the community wants runs smack into, well, budget limits and sometimes just basic engineering facts.
And yeah, that pressure seems really intense around the big recreation hot topic, pickleball, specifically the Los Animas Veterans Park Pickleball Courts project.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Big time. It's in the capital budget for fiscal year 26, funded at $862,500. And you can tell staff is feeling the heat to get these courts built.
The community, and it looks like the Parks and Rec Commission, too. They were really pushing for 6 courts, weren't they?
They absolutely were. But the reality of engineering costs, especially on that site, kind of put the brakes on that idea pretty fast. The staff report basically lays out this really clear, kind of painful choice: quality or quantity.
Okay, let's dig into that a bit. The staff recommendation, the one they were pushing for, was this 4-court concept. Came in estimated at $795,229.
Right, which keeps it under that $862,500 budget number. But the real key difference wasn't just the number of courts, it was how they'd be built.
The construction material.
Exactly. The crucial thing in the forecourt plan was using a post-tension concrete slab. Staff emphasized this because apparently the soil in that specific park area is known to be reactive. It moves. Which is why the existing tennis courts there, made with standard asphaltic concrete AC, they've cracked pretty badly over time.
So post-tension concrete means courts that actually last, avoids the cracking problem.
That's the idea. Build it right the first time, avoid those constant expensive repairs down the line. And that $795K forecourt option wasn't bare bones either.
What else did it include?
It was pretty comprehensive. You get the durable slab, plus nice amenities like actual cabana benches, windscreens, which serious players appreciate, and, importantly, expanded accessible concrete walkways to make sure it meets 80 requirements and everyone can use it.
Okay, but that push for 6 courts was still there. So what did that alternative look like, the 6-court option?
Yeah.
And why was staff so against it?
Well, they priced out a reduced amenity 6-court concept. It technically squeaked in just under the budget limit at $861,980, barely.
But how? What did they have to cut?
2 big things. First, they'd have to use that cheaper, crack-prone asphaltic concrete pavement, the very stuff that failed on the tennis courts.
But
yeah. And second, they had to ditch amenities like the cabana benches and even the internal separation fencing between courts. Staff didn't mince words. In the report, they flat out called this 6-court design inferior and basically predicted it would fail, just like the tennis courts.
So the council's decision wasn't just 4 versus 6. It was really about long-term financial sense, wasn't it? Spend the money now for something durable, or satisfy the immediate demand for more courts knowing you'll likely pay way more later in repairs.
Precisely. It's like, do you want the headlines now, or do you want infrastructure that lasts? The ask to the council was clear. Approve the durable 4-court concept so we can get started on the real construction drawings.
It really highlights that tough balancing act in local government. You want to make
Right.
people happy, but you also have to be responsible stewards of public money.
Absolutely. And that focus on long-term quality, thinking ahead, it shows up elsewhere too. Not just in parks, but in really critical infrastructure. Let's switch over to the water utility upgrades.
Right, this was a big contract award. Construction management services for the utility improvements project.
Yeah, a major one. They were looking to award the CM contract to a company called 4/8 Inc. The base contract was $696,292.
Wow.
Plus a 15% contingency, another $104,448. So the total management budget they were approving was, just over $800,000.
Why such a big chunk just for management?
Well, it's actually a pretty smart move strategically. Instead of juggling 6 separate waterline replacement projects under the Capital Improvement Program, CIP, like work on Broadway and Sargent or Church and Gurries,
Okay.
they decided to bundle them all under one big contract. The idea is you get better oversight, more efficiency, and hopefully economies of scale by having one firm manage the whole suite of projects.
Makes sense. And the requirements for the CM firm, these seemed really specific and demanding.
Oh, absolutely. This isn't just any construction management gig. They needed a firm with proven expertise specifically in municipal potable water systems. That's critical.
And what about where they're working?
That's the other tough part. A lot of this work is happening within the rights of way, the ROWs of the Union Pacific Railroad and Caltrans, the state transportation agency.
That sounds complicated.
It really is. Working near active rail lines or state highways adds whole layers of complexity, special permits, intense safety protocols, coordinating schedules, railroad flagmen sometimes. It takes specialized experience to navigate all that, and that expertise costs money. It drives up the contract value significantly.
Like navigating a minefield of regulations.
What?
And speaking of regulations, what about making sure the actual construction work follows the rules,
Yeah.
like labor laws?
Yeah, that's a huge part of the CM's job here. They have to ensure strict compliance with California's prevailing wage laws, that's SB 854, making sure workers get paid the standard rate for public works jobs.
Okay.
And it gets even more detailed. The CM also has to monitor and document apprenticeship requirements using specific state forms, the DAS 140 and 142 forms. So it's not just about getting pipes in the ground, it's about ensuring the project meets state workforce development mandates too.
That's a lot of oversight packed into that $800K management budget.
Mm.
Now, staying with public facilities, there was another cost issue, smaller scale, but still important, the fire station renovations design.
Right. William Duff Architects needed an extra $20,100 added to their design contract.
Why the increase mid-design?
It's actually a perfect example of how updating older buildings throws curveballs. You start digging into the details of modernization, and suddenly you need more engineering work than you initially thought.
Here's where it gets really interesting. So it wasn't just one thing, it was several small issues adding up.
Exactly. 4 specific unforeseen engineering needs popped up. First, they needed $4,000 for a structural analysis. They wanted to open up the kitchen area at the Chestnut Station, make it more modern, open concept, but that meant figuring out support for an overhead beam.
Okay, structural work. What else?
Second, a big change impacting HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. They decided to convert the old, large, shared dormitories into smaller private rooms for the firefighters.
Better privacy sounds good.
It is, but changing the room layouts like that completely changes the airflow. You need new, probably larger HVAC units specified to handle those individual spaces properly. That added $7,500 just for the detailed HVAC specs.
Right. Individual rooms need individual climate control, basically.
Pretty much. Then number 3, restrooms and showers. They were expanding those facilities at both stations, and it turned out the existing gas water heaters just couldn't handle the increased demand. So another $5,000 was needed to spec out new, higher capacity water heaters.
Makes sense. More showers, more hot water needed.
And finally, the 4th item was $3,600 for a 7-day power quality and load study. Before they finalize all these new HVAC units and water heaters, they needed to actually measure the building's electrical load over a full week.
To make sure the existing electrical panels could handle it all.
Exactly. You can't just guess or look at old utility bills. You need real data to confirm the electrical system won't be overloaded by all the renovations. Better to find out now than after you've spent hundreds of thousands on construction.
Yeah, that seems like a really smart preventative cost. That $20 rate might save them a huge headache and much bigger expense later if the power grid failed.
Precisely. It's about ensuring the foundational design is sound before you start swinging hammers. It protects the much larger overall construction budget.
Okay, moving from building infrastructure to preserving history. Let's talk about the Mills Act. This is a pretty neat program.
It really is. The Mills Act is a California state program that lets local governments, like Gilroy, enter into contracts with owners of historic properties.
And the deal is?
The deal is the property owner gets a reduction in their property taxes, sometimes a pretty significant one, and in exchange, they formally agree to preserve, restore, and maintain the historic character of their property for a specific term, usually 10 years initially, and it automatically renews.
So it's a tool to encourage preservation using tax policy, and the council had a specific application, MA 2501.
Yes, for the commercial building at 7357 Monterey Road. You might know it. It's currently Savvy's Downtown Suites. It's a really old building, apparently built around 1870, and it has the highest possible local historic rating the city gives, a 5. So it's definitely a property worth preserving.
What's the financial impact for the city itself Is Gilroy losing a lot of tax revenue here?
Actually, no. The city's direct financial risk is really minimal.
Hmm.
Typically, the city of Gilroy only gets less than 10% of the total property tax collected on any given parcel. The rest goes to the county, schools, other districts.
So for this specific property.
The estimate was that the city would forgo less than $900, about $897 in tax revenue for the 2026 tax year. It's a tiny amount for the city compared to the benefit of having a landmark property preserved. The county and schools absorb most of the tax reduction.
Okay, but what about the property owner? What's their side of the bargain? This is the part I found really compelling.
It is really impressive. The owner isn't just taking the tax break. They proposed a detailed 10-year improvement plan for the building totaling $125,000.
$125,000 in work. Like what?
Major stuff, including putting on a whole new roof, upgrading the HVAC system, serious capital investments.
And how does that compare to the tax savings they'd get?
That's the key point. Historically, Mills Act participants in Gilroy see tax relief averaging around 57%. For this property, over 10 years, the estimated tax savings would likely be somewhere between $46,000 and maybe $74,000.
So they're planning to spend $125,000
Mhm.
to save maybe $74,000 max.
Exactly. Their proposed investment significantly outweighs the potential tax benefit. It really suggests a genuine commitment to preserving the building, not just trying to get a tax loophole. It's preservation driven by passion, really, just enabled by this policy.
That's fantastic. Seems like the Mills Act is working exactly as intended in this case. But there was a comment from the public suggesting maybe not everyone who could use the program even knows about it.
Yes, that was an important point raised. A resident mentioned that there might be several dozen other homes in Gilroy that could potentially qualify for the Mills Act.
But the owners don't know.
Right. They might be unaware the program exists, or they might be intimidated by the application process, which involves working with the county assessor's office and can seem complicated. The request was for the city to hold a public workshop to explain the Mills Act better and reach those potential applicants.
That makes a lot of sense. If you have a good program, you need to make sure people know how to access it. Which kind of ties into the next topic, open government and access to information.
Definitely. The Open Government Commission, the OGC, was active. They recommended the council designate November 17th to 21st as Open Government Week.
Celebrating what?
It marks the 17th anniversary of Gilroy adopting its own local sunshine law, basically rules promoting transparency and public access.
And what were they planning for the week?
Some practical outreach, things like staffing tables at the public library to actually show people how to find public records online, how to file requests, and also getting the word out through a letter to the editor in the local paper, the Gilroy Dispatch.
Good proactive steps. But the OGC also made a more specific, maybe more pointed request about translation services.
They did. They asked for 20 minutes on the council's November 17th agenda, specifically to discuss City Council translation services.
Why the focus just on translation? What was their concern?
Their argument, laid out in their minutes, was that the way translation services are currently delivered, the system used, was put in place as an administrative decision, basically by staff, without specific public input or direct council consideration on the method itself.
Okay. And why is the method so important to them?
Well, they pointed out that Gilroy's population is over 60% Hispanic. Given that demographic reality, the OGC feels that just providing some translation isn't enough. They want a discussion about revising the delivery method to really foster cultural competency, meaning ensuring the service doesn't just tick a legal box, but is delivered in a way that truly maximizes community engagement and builds trust, especially with such a large segment of the population. It's a subtle but important distinction. How you do it matters as much as that you do it.
That's a really interesting point. Moving beyond just compliance to thinking about effective engagement. Yeah. Shifting back to pure finance, the council also did its annual review of the city's investment policy. Standard procedure.
Yeah, pretty standard annual checkup. The policy itself reaffirms the city's investment priorities, which are in order. Safety first, then liquidity, being able to access the cash when needed, and only then yield, or earning a return.
And how's the city doing financially based on the portfolio?
Looking pretty healthy, actually. As of June 30th, 2025, the city had about $203.6 million in cash and investment.
Ah, that's substantial. Where is it invested?
Mostly in very safe, liquid places. Major holdings include LAF, that's the state's local agency investment fund pool, U.S. Treasury securities, and another pool called a California Class Prime Fund. Standard, conservative stuff for a municipality.
And the return. How did it perform?
pretty well for the fiscal year. The effective rate of return was 4.5%, which, given the interest rate environment, was quite solid and likely beat their benchmarks.
Any surprises in the financial reports?
There was one interesting bit of news mentioned in the minutes from a September 15th meeting. The city expects to receive over $500,000, $500,000 plus from a PFAS class action lawsuit settlement against companies like 3M and DuPont.
PFAS, the forever chemicals.
Exactly. And the city plans to earmark that unexpected windfall specifically for infrastructure improvements, which seems very prudent.
That's great news. Though, again, interesting contrast getting a surprise $500,000, but still having to make tough choices like fewer pickleball courts due to cost.
It really highlights that even with a healthy overall picture, resources are always finite when you have infinite needs and wants.
Finally, we should touch on the public comment section for non-agenda items. There was a significant comment made there.
Yes, a resident spoke very directly to the council about their concerns regarding the local drug problem. They specifically mentioned fentanyl, cocaine, and heroin impacting the community.
What was their main point?
They contrasted the drug situation locally with reports of federal efforts to seize drugs at the border, and they expressed strong criticism towards the local district attorney's office, feeling there wasn't enough action being taken on drug-related cases within the county.
That's a heavy topic for a city council meeting, especially when the DA is a county official.
It is, but it shows how city councils often become the first point of contact, the sounding board, for residents' frustrations about public safety and the justice system, even if the direct responsibility lies elsewhere. They need to hear those concerns.
Absolutely. So we've covered a lot of ground here, from the nitty-gritty of pickleball court concrete
A surprisingly contentious issue.
to the big picture of water infrastructure management, the delicate balance of preserving history with the Mills Act, where you see owners investing more than they save,
Which was really heartening.
and then these crucial debates about open government and truly effective community engagement, like the translation services discussion.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what really strikes me is that dynamic in municipal finance. You see Gilroy with a solid, $200 million plus portfolio, getting this unexpected $500,000 windfall from the PFAS settlement.
Yeah, sounds pretty good on paper.
Right. But even with that apparent health, resources are still tight enough that they have to make these really hard choices driven by engineering and long-term cost, like prioritizing the durable, expensive concrete for 4 pickleball courts instead of building 6 potentially problematic ones faster.
So it's never easy, even when the books look okay.
Never. It just underscores that local government is constantly navigating this edge between immediate demands, political pressures, engineering realities, and long-term financial health of the city. Every decision is a trade-off.
So what does this all mean?
It means that behind every local project, every budget line item you hear about, there's likely been a pretty intense negotiation, conscious or not, between what people want now, what the engineers say will actually work, and what the finance director says the city can truly afford long-term.
And thinking about that Open Government Commission pushing on the how of translation services, not just the if, especially with Gilroy's large Hispanic population. Here's something for you, the listener, to chew on. How should a city really define cultural competency when it's spending public money? Is it enough just to offer a service like translation? Or does true competency mean ensuring the way that service is delivered actually builds maximum trust and engagement within all parts of the community?
That question, how you answer it, really shapes the civic life of a place.
Absolutely. Well, that's our deep dive into the workings of Gilroy city government. We hope this deep dive was valuable for you. Thanks for joining us.